6 months from now, you'll either be the same person, living the same patterns, or you'll be someone you barely recognize, in the best way possible. Carl Jung discovered the exact psychological process that determines which one you'll be. He called it individuation, and he mapped out precisely how the psyche transforms when you stop fighting it and start working with it. This transformation doesn't happen in years or decades, but in months. That's because Jung understood something most therapists won't tell you. Real psychological change doesn't happen gradually. It happens in quantum leaps when you hit specific psychological thresholds. I'm about to show you Jung's 6-month transformation protocol. It's the same process he used with patients who came to him stuck, depressed, lost, and left fundamentally changed. This isn't self-help. This isn't positive thinking. This is about triggering the psychological mechanisms that create irreversible transformation. And here's what's different about Jung's approach. You don't change by adding things to your life. You change by integrating what's already there, waiting in your unconscious, trying to transform you. The next 6 months are going to pass anyway. The question is, will you use them to become who you really are? Here's why most people never truly change. They're trying to fix their life without changing their psyche. They rearrange external circumstances, a new job, a new relationship, a new city. But they carry the same internal patterns everywhere they go. Jung saw this constantly. People would come to him having tried everything, different careers, partners, lifestyles, but nothing changed. That's because they were the common denominator. They were dragging their unconscious patterns into every new situation, recreating the same dynamics, hitting the same walls. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You leave a toxic job only to find the same dynamics at the new one. You end a dysfunctional relationship only to attract the same type of person with a different face. You move across the country only to recreate the same life you were escaping. Jung's insight was revolutionary. You don't change your life by changing your circumstances. You change your life by changing your relationship with your unconscious. That's because your unconscious is running 95% of the show. And until you make it conscious, you're just a puppet thinking,
"Can't change what you can see." So, the first 2 months are about making the unconscious conscious, specifically meeting your shadow. Your shadow isn't just your bad side. It's every part of yourself you've rejected to be acceptable. The anger you suppressed to be nice. The ambition you hid to be humble. The sensitivity you buried to be strong. All of it went into your shadow, and from there it's controlling your life. Here's Jung's method for mapping your shadow in 60 days. First, identify your triggers for 2 months. Track every strong emotional reaction you have to other people. That person who infuriates you, that trait you can't stand, that behavior that makes you irrationally angry. Write it down. These aren't observations about others, they're your shadow showing itself. The arrogant person you hate is showing you your disowned confidence. The needy person who disgusts you is revealing your rejected vulnerability. The selfish person who triggers you is pointing to your suppressed self-care. Your triggers are your shadow's GPS coordinates. Second, track your projections. Notice when you're absolutely certain someone else is wrong, bad, or problematic. The stronger your conviction, the more likely you're projecting. Jung discovered that we don't see others clearly. We see our unconscious material projected onto them like they're movie screens. One of Jung's patients spent 2 months tracking his triggers and discovered something shocking. Every person he labeled as weak was actually showing incredible strength in vulnerability, something he'd completely rejected in himself. His hatred of weakness was actually hatred of his own suppressed need for connection. Third, examine your admiration. Your shadow isn't just negative traits, it's also positive qualities you've disowned. The people you put on pedestals, the qualities you admire but think you could never have. That's your golden shadow. You've projected your own potential onto others. For these 2 months, you're not trying to change anything. You're just mapping.
You're creating a psychological inventory of all the parts of yourself you've rejected. That's because Jung discovered that just seeing your shadow clearly begins to change everything. By the end of month 2, you'll have a complete map of your unconscious material. You'll know exactly what you've been projecting, so
desperately need. Here's how it works. Take one shadow aspect you've identified. Let's say your rejected anger. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and let this anger take a form in your imagination. Maybe it appears as a fire, a warrior, a child having a tantrum. Don't control it. Let it show itself. Then, talk to it. Ask, why are you in my life? What do you need me to know? What gift are you trying to give me? And listen. Really listen. Not with your logical mind, but with your psychological ear. Jung did this with his own shadow material and discovered something profound. His rejected aggression wasn't trying to make him violent. It was trying to give him the power to establish boundaries. His suppressed selfishness wasn't trying to make him cruel. It was trying to teach him self-preservation. One of Jung's patients, a people-pleaser who couldn't say no, spent month 3 dialoguing with her shadow. She discovered a fierce protector she'd buried since childhood, a part that knew exactly how to set boundaries, but had been labeled mean and exiled. Through dialogue, she didn't become mean. She became boundaried. The shadow quality transformed through integration. Month 4 is about practical integration. You take these shadow qualities and consciously express them in small, controlled ways. The person who rejected anger practices firm boundary setting. The one who suppressed ambition takes one small step toward a personal goal. The individual who denied sensitivity allows themselves one moment of vulnerability daily. You're not becoming your shadow. You're reclaiming the energy trapped in it. Every quality you integrate returns power to you. Every rejected part you befriend stops sabotaging you from the unconscious. By the end of month 4, you're not the same person. You have access to energy and qualities you haven't felt in years, maybe decades. You're more whole, more powerful, more authentically yourself. But Jung knew this was just preparation for the real transformation. The final 2 months are where everything changes. Jung called this the activation of the transcendent function, where you're tension consciously, without escaping into old patterns or forcing premature resolution. Your psyche does something miraculous. It creates a third option, a new identity that includes everything you've been, but transcends it. Here's what this looks like practically. You'll face situations where your old self would react one way, and your emerging self wants to react differently. Don't choose. Hold both responses. Feel the old pattern and the new possibility simultaneously. Sit in that impossible tension. One of Jung's patients described month 5 as living between worlds. She was no longer the people-pleaser she'd been, but not yet the boundaried person she was becoming. Every interaction required holding this tension. Every decision was a birth pain. Month 6 is when the new you crystallizes. Jung called this the birth of the self, capital S. Not a better version of your ego, but a fundamentally different organizing principle for your psyche. You stop being driven by what others think, what society expects, what your trauma programmed. You start being driven by something deeper, truer, more essentially you. This isn't gradual, it's sudden. One day in month 6, you wake up and realize you're different at a cellular level. Situations that used to trigger you don't. Patterns that controlled you for years simply stop. You make decisions from a place you didn't know existed. Jung experienced this himself and wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." But this choosing isn't from the ego. It's from the self that emerges when conscious and unconscious unite. Throughout all 6 months, Jung insisted on 2 daily practices that accelerate transformation: dream work and synchronicity tracking. Every morning, write down your dreams. Don't interpret them logically. Feel into them psychologically. Your dreams are your unconscious mind's direct communication. They're showing you what's transforming, what's resisting, what's emerging. Jung discovered that as you progress through these 6 months, your dreams change dramatically. Month 1 dreams often involve being chased, your shadow trying to get your attention. Month 3 dreams feature confrontations, you facing rejected parts. Month 5 dreams are often about death and birth, your ego dying and self-emerging. You're ready for it. Jung believed synchronicities weren't coincidences, but evidence of the collective unconscious responding to your individual transformation. As you change internally, external reality reorganizes to match your new frequency. One patient documented synchronicities throughout his 6 months and noticed something astounding. Month 1, maybe 1 synchronicity weekly. Month 6, multiple daily. His transformation was literally changing how reality responded to him. Keep a synchronicity journal, not to prove anything, but to stay aware that your transformation isn't just internal. You're not changing in isolation. You're changing in relationship with everything. These aren't superstitious practices. They're psychological technologies for maintaining conscious contact with your unconscious throughout transformation. They keep you aligned with the deeper process, especially when your ego wants to abort the mission. Jung discovered something that should both terrify and exhilarate you. Around month 4, transformation becomes irreversible. You hit what he called the point of no return, where you can't go back to who you were, even if you wanted to. This is why most people unconsciously sabotage their growth around month 3. They sense the point of no return approaching and panic. The ego realizes it's about to lose control permanently and creates crisis, drama, reasons to stop. You'll know you're approaching this threshold when everything in your life starts breaking down. Relationships that worked with your old self stop working. Jobs that fit your false identity become unbearable. Everything that was built on your unconscious pattern starts crumbling. This isn't failure, it's success. Your old life is dying because it was built on a false foundation. It has to collapse for your real life to emerge. Jung called this necessary destruction, the night sea journey. You have to go through darkness to reach dawn. But here's what's powerful. Once you pass the point of no return, the transformation completes itself. You don't have to force anything. The psychological momentum you've built carries you through. Your unconscious and conscious minds are now working together toward the same goal, your individuation. Jung watched hundreds of patients hit this point. Some turn back, choosing familiar suffering over unknown transformation.
Month 4. It completes itself, whether you're ready or not. Let me tie this together, because Jung's 6-month protocol isn't just theory. It's a precise psychological process. Months 1 to 2, you map your shadow, discovering all the parts of yourself you've rejected. You can't change what you can't see. So, first you make the unconscious conscious. Months 3 to 4, you dialogue with and integrate your shadow through active imagination. You reclaim energy and qualities you've been projecting onto others. Months 5 to 6, the transcendent function activates. Your old identity dies, and your true self is born. You become who you actually are, not who you've been programmed to be. Throughout, you track dreams and synchronicities, maintaining conscious contact with your unconscious. You stay connected to the deeper process, even when your ego resists. This isn't about becoming a better version of yourself. It's about becoming yourself for the first time. Jung discovered that most people live their entire lives without ever meeting who they really are. They die having lived someone else's life, someone else's values, someone else's dreams. But in 6 months, if you follow this process, if you don't turn back at the point of no return, you can reverse decades of false living. You can integrate your shadow, activate yourself, and start living from your true center. Here's what you need to decide right now. Are you willing to let who you've been die so who you're meant to be can live? Because that's what the next 6 months offer. Not improvement, but transformation. Not better circumstances, but a different you experiencing circumstances differently. Not a new life, but a real life. Maybe for the first time. Jung proved this transformation is possible for anyone willing to do the psychological work. Not the surface work of habits and goals, but the deep work of shadow integration and individuation. Not the ego work of becoming successful, but the soul work of becoming yourself. The next 6 months are going to pass whether you transform or not. You'll either be sitting here 6 months from now with the same patterns, same problems, same sense that you're living the wrong life, or you'll be someone you can barely remember not being, someone who's integrated their shadow.
Dialogue with your shadow and let transformation happen. Your psyche already knows how to do this. Jung just gave us the map. 6 months. That's all it takes to change everything. Not through force, but through integration. Not through doing more, but through becoming whole. The clock starts when you decide it does. If you're serious about this 6-month transformation, subscribe to this channel where I break down Jung's most powerful techniques for individuation. And watch the video on your screen now about active imagination. I'll show you exactly how to dialogue with your unconscious and accelerate your transformation. Remember, 6 months pass quickly. Make them count. Your real life is waiting on the other side of this process.